My fiancé, Evan Cooper, went to Europe to expand the market, and when he came back, he brought an assistant with him named Tina Sue. He said she was highly capable, a graduate from a prestigious school, and an exceptional talent. But the first time this talent met me, her eyes turned red, and in a pitiful voice she said, "Miss Quinn, I will only marry for love and be Evan's only wife. I will never become a sacrifice for your business alliance." I looked at the pink diamond ring on her hand, worth $3 million, that Evan had just bought. I couldn't help but feel a rare surge of jealousy. A business alliance? But Evan and I came from perfectly matched families, and our engagement ceremony was scheduled for next month to be announced to the world. So what was I supposed to do now? Tina's face grew even paler. Evan immediately stepped in front of her to shield her and frowned at me. "Zoe, Tina is sweet and pure-hearted. Don't scare her. As for our engagement, maybe you could try to be more understanding for now. After the company goes public and stabilizes, I'll give you an explanation." I laughed. My father is the largest investor in this company, and I am the one who holds the core technology patents the company relies on to survive. No matter who becomes the CEO, I will undoubtedly be the rightful CEO's wife. The engagement banquet was held as planned. All the well-known and influential figures attended. This was the major announcement of the merger of our two business empires. But just as the host invited Evan to put the engagement ring on my finger, he held the ring but didn't move. He looked at me, his eyes filled with apology and pleading. "I'm sorry. For the future of the company and for Tina, let's postpone the engagement." He thought I would compromise for the bigger picture, since I had always been his most cooperative business partner for years. Tina stood in a corner below the stage, her eyes shining with triumph. The guests began whispering, and everyone's attention fell on me, waiting to see the Quinn family's daughter embarrassed. I took the ring from Evan's hand, tossed it lightly, and smiled. I picked up the microphone. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly throughout the banquet hall. "Mr. Cooper is right. There are indeed some issues between us, so we do need to be cautious about the engagement." Evan let out a breath, thinking I had finally compromised. But then my tone shifted, turning cold. "So I've decided, from this moment on, to officially dissolve my engagement with Mr. Evan Cooper." I then looked toward my father in the audience. "On behalf of Quinn Corporation, I hereby unilaterally announce the withdrawal of all investments in Story Group and permanently terminate their authorization to use the Tianzhong chip series patents." All the color instantly drained from Evan's face. He stared at me in disbelief. "Zoe, are you insane?" I ignored him, lifted the hem of my dress, and walked off the stage, heading straight toward the only man present who could rival him, his sworn enemy, Liam Sinclair. I stopped in front of him, ignoring the depth of his gaze, and raised the champagne in my hand. "Mr. Sinclair, your company is known for opportunistic strategies, and my technology is the best in the world. Are you interested in discussing a deal that could double your company's market value?" The banquet hall sparkled with brilliant lights, crystal chandeliers refracting dazzling colors, and the air was filled with the scent of champagne and top-tier perfume. But all of it fell into a dead silence because of what I had just said. Everyone looked frozen, as if someone had pressed pause. Evan's face turned from pale to ashen, then from ashen to an incredulous, flushed red. He strode off the stage, reaching for my wrist. "Zoe Quinn, do you even know what you're saying?" His voice was strained and distorted by rage. I turned slightly and avoided him without letting him so much as touch the hem of my dress. I simply looked at him, and in my eyes there was no anger, no sadness, only the kind of absurd amusement one has when watching a clown perform. "I know exactly what I'm saying." I deliberately emphasized, "Mr. Cooper. But you, it seems you don't really understand what it is you've just given up." Standing across from me, Liam Sinclair's lips curved into a playful smile. He didn't answer my question immediately. Instead, he watched the scene with great interest. His gaze was sharp like a falcon's, filled with an aggressive intensity. "Miss Quinn, are you sure?" His low, deep voice carried a faint hint of admiration. "I never make decisions I'm not certain about." I lifted my glass and tapped it lightly against his. "Mr. Sinclair, do you dare to gamble?" "Why wouldn't I?" Liam replied, completely ignoring Evan Cooper, who was on the verge of exploding. Evan completely lost control. He pointed at me, then at Liam, his voice hoarse. Zoe Quinn, just to get back at me, you're actually gonna work with this despicable man? What do you take our years of relationship for? Relationship. I almost laughed. Our relationship was the Quinn family's $30 billion investment. It was the countless nights I stayed up developing the Tiangong chip. It was every cornerstone of his career empire. And now, for the sake of the pure love his assistant talked about, he wanted to throw all of that away. How stupidly ridiculous. Tina Sue, who had been standing in the corner, panicked as well. The triumphant glow on her face had already disappeared, replaced entirely by fear. She must have thought that at most I would cry, make a scene, accuse him, and then be coaxed by Evan with a few words. She never imagined I would flip the entire table. She rushed over and tugged at Evan's sleeve, tears appearing instantly. Evan, it was all my fault. Miss Quinn, please don't blame Evan. He's just too kind. He doesn't want to hurt anyone. The acting was truly phenomenal. I gave her a cold look. He doesn't want to hurt anyone? Is that why he chose to humiliate me in front of every influential person in Capital City, right here at our engagement party? I let my voice drop. Miss Sue, keep that self-sacrificing for love script for your own viewing. Don't dirty my eyes. I didn't look at them again. I gestured toward Liam. Mr. Sinclair, it's too noisy here. Let's talk somewhere else. Liam nodded, took off his suit jacket, and draped it over my shoulders like a gentleman, shielding me from all the malicious gazes around us. My pleasure, Miss Quinn. He called me Miss Quinn, not Miss Quinn. I took his arm, and under hundreds of shocked, resentful, and gloating stares, I lifted my chin and walked out of the banquet hall with pride. Behind me were Evan Cooper's furious roars and the sharp sound of dishes shattering. The farce had finally ended, and the real business bloodbath was only just beginning. Liam's car was parked at the hotel entrance, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom, understated yet luxurious, just like him. Deep, unreadable. Inside the car, he handed me a cup of warm water. Feeling better? I accepted the cup and shook my head. There's nothing I need to recover from. I just handled a failed investment, that's all. Cutting losses in time is part of my profession. My calm seemed to take Liam by surprise. He studied me for a long moment. I always thought you loved him. I loved what I thought was a man with real business sense. I took a sip of water and said calmly, a partner who understands contracts and professionalism. Clearly, Evan Cooper is neither. He's foolish, arrogant, and thinks he's clever when he isn't. Why would I keep a partner like that around for anything? Liam Sinclair laughed, his voice low and pleased. Zoe Quinn, you're far more interesting than I expected. Then he leaned back slightly. So let's talk about this deal that could double my company's market value. I set the glass down, my gaze turning sharp and focused again, the gaze of a true businesswoman. The Tianchong chip series. You know exactly what it's worth, Liam nodded. It's the core of Story Group, the future of the entire industry. Exactly. But the Tianchong patents have always been under my personal name. I only authorize Story Group to use them. Now that I've withdrawn authorization, that ends. And not just that, I also have the complete technical blueprint for Tianchong 2.0. Its performance is at least 3 times better than anything currently on the market. Liam's pupils tightened sharply. He leaned forward, and the powerful pressure he radiated washed over me. Your terms? We create a new company. You provide the capital, I provide the technology. I take 51% of the shares and hold absolute control. I want a new product launched within 3 months, completely overtaking Story Group's entire market. And I want Story Group to go bankrupt. When I said those last 2 words, my tone was as calm as if I were commenting on the weather. Liam stared at me for a full 10 seconds. Then he smiled. Deal. He extended his hand. I shook it. His hand was cold but strong, a promise from someone powerful. We signed a letter of intent that very night. Early the next morning, the financial world exploded. Quinn Corporation announced a full withdrawal of all investments in Story Group. The Quinn family's heiress, Zoe Quinn, unilaterally dissolved her engagement with Story Group's CEO, Evan Cooper, and terminated their authorization to use the Tianchong chip patents. Rumors spread that Zoe Quinn had reached a cooperation deal with Story Group's longtime rival, Liam Sinclair, and that they were establishing a new company together. 3 earth-shattering headlines dropped like nuclear bombs, blowing Story Group's foundation to pieces. The stock hit limit down the moment the market opened. Thousands of shareholders screamed in despair. The company's phones were flooded. Partners called one after another to demand explanations. Banks followed with loan collection notices. Story Group, the seemingly indestructible corporate tower, had its foundation ripped out by me in a single night. Collapse was now just a matter of time. Evan Cooper panicked. Completely overwhelmed, he called me countless times and sent message after message, from angry accusations to desperate explanations, and finally, down to begging. I didn't answer a single call or reply to a single message. He must have finally realized I wasn't joking. So he began his performance. He brought Tina Sue with him to accept an exclusive interview with a financial media outlet. On camera, Evan looked exhausted, dark circles heavy under his eyes. He painted himself as a man who would defy the world for true love. There has been no real emotion between Zoe and me for a long time, only business interests binding us together, he said. It was Tina's appearance that made me understand what true love is. Love is priceless. It shouldn't be tainted by capital. I admit I wronged Zoe, but I can't lie to my heart. I hope she can calm down and not let personal emotions affect the future of both companies and the livelihoods of tens of thousands of employees. His speech sounded noble and righteous, as if he were standing on some moral high ground. And beside him, Tina Sue pushed her White Lotus act to the absolute extreme. She appeared on camera without makeup, wearing a cotton dress so washed out it looked pale, crying so pitifully it seemed like pear blossoms in the rain. "It's all my fault," she sobbed. "I shouldn't have fallen in love with Evan. Miss Quinn, please, I beg you. Whatever resentment you have, take it out on me. Don't make things hard on Evan. The company is his life's work. As long as you're willing to spare Story Group, I'm willing to leave Evan. I'm willing to walk away." She kept saying she was willing to walk away, yet her hand clung tightly to Evan Cooper's the entire time. What a beautifully staged performance of tragic, earth-shattering, pure love. For a moment, public opinion flipped instantly. Netizens who didn't know the truth were fooled, and they began sympathizing with these two star-crossed lovers fighting for love. So it was a business alliance after all? No wonder Miss Quinn is so ruthless. I feel so bad for Mr. Cooper and Tina. What's wrong with love? That Zoe Quinn is too vicious. Just because of hate, she wants to destroy an entire publicly listed company? Tina seized the momentum and launched a live stream. On camera, she cried about how pure her love for Evan was, and how I, a cold-hearted heiress backed by capital, had oppressed her. Sympathy and donations flooded into her live stream like a tidal wave. She instantly became the pure love warrior fighting against the evil forces of capital. Seeing public opinion begin to shift in his favor, Evan Cooper seemed to relax. He thought moral coercion and public pressure could force me to yield. But he was too naive. In the face of absolute capital and real power, public opinion is nothing but a joke. I sat in the CEO office of my new company, watching Tina's tear-streaked face on the screen. The smile on my lips grew colder and colder. I turned to my legal team beside me and said only one sentence: "It's our turn." My counterattack was swift, precise, and ruthless. First, my legal team released a document to the media. It was the betting agreement that Story Group had signed with me. The terms were crystal clear. The premise of Quinn Corporation's investment was that Story Group must successfully go public within this year. If they failed to do so on schedule, Evan Cooper would have to use all of his personal assets as collateral to buy back all shares held by the Quinn family. In other words, if the IPO failed, he would lose everything. The moment this agreement was released, the internet went wild. Holy crap, so it wasn't just a normal investment, it was a bet agreement. So that means Zoe Quinn withdrawing investment was totally legal. It had nothing to do with feelings at all. Evan Cooper signed it himself, and now he's pretending he's a victim because of love? How shameless can he get? The deeply devoted persona Evan had crafted began to crack for the first time. But that was only the appetizer. Next, an anonymous account posted a video online. The video was shot inside a top-tier luxury boutique in Europe. In the footage, Tina was smiling sweetly as she tried on various pieces of jewelry and designer bags. She told the sales associate. This one, that one, and that one too. Wrap them all up. Then she pulled out a card from her bag and handed it over. It was Evan Cooper's supplementary card. At the end of the video, there was an attached list of purchases, an extremely long one. From million-dollar watches to high-end bags costing hundreds of thousands to limited edition gowns, she spent more than $10 million in just half a month. The video title read, Pure Love Warrior Tina Sue. Love shouldn't be tainted by capital, but it can certainly max out a supplementary card. The video exploded across the internet like a deep-water bomb. Seconds earlier, the fans cheering for Tina in her live stream fell completely silent, stunned. So this was the same Tina Sue who wore a faded cotton dress and claimed she didn't care about money. Incredible. Crying about true love while swiping the fiancé's family money to buy luxury goods. What a resounding slap in the face. She deserved the Green Tea of the Year award. So his so-called pure love actually just meant pure love for money, didn't it? Tina's livestream was instantly flooded with furious comments. She turned pale with fright and hurriedly shut the stream off. Overnight, her pure love warrior persona completely collapsed, and she became a laughingstock across the entire internet. Evan Cooper tried to salvage the situation. He released a statement claiming all those purchases were work-related, but no one believed him anymore. The anger of shareholders and the ridicule from netizens drowned them like a tidal wave. Story Group's stock price crashed again, 3 consecutive limit downs. Panic swept through the company. Resignation letters piled up on Evan's desk like sheets of blood. He tried to calm the employees, even held an emergency meeting, but halfway through, an even more devastating piece of news arrived. The new company I founded, with Liam Sinclair, Skypeak Technologies, was officially launched. We held a grand press conference. Under the spotlights, I stood calm and confident. Skypeak will focus on the development and application of next-generation AI chips. Our goal is to lead the next technological era. Standing beside me was someone else, Dr. Lee, the former head of Story Group's entire technical department and the core leader of the Tianchong chip development team. And behind him stood more than a dozen people, all key technical members from Story Group. Yes, I had poached Story Group's entire core technology team. I offered triple their salaries and 5% equity incentives in the new company. Faced with terms they couldn't refuse, and with Story Group on the brink of collapse, not a single person chose to stay. When Evan saw the live broadcast in the conference room, he slammed his phone to the ground so hard it shattered. His eyes were bloodshot, his face ashen. Because he knew this was the real, fatal blow. Without investors, he could find new ones. Without market share, he could try to take it back. But without the core tech team, Story Group was nothing but an empty shell. A shell with no future whatsoever. He rushed out of the building like a madman and drove straight to the headquarters of Skypeak Technologies. He wanted to see me, but he couldn't even get past the front door. Security stopped him. Sir, you don't have an appointment. You can't enter. I'm Evan Cooper. Tell Zoe Quinn to come down and see me. He screamed hysterically. The security guard looked at him as if he were insane. The scene was captured by passing reporters and quickly spread across the entire internet. The once high-spirited CEO of Story Group now looked like a stray dog causing a scene at someone else's company. How ironic. From my office on the top floor, I watched his pathetic figure through the surveillance feed. Liam Sinclair stood beside me and handed me a cup of coffee. "Want to go down and see him?" I shook my head. "No need." I picked up the internal phone and called the front desk. "Have Mr. Sinclair go down. Tell Mr. Cooper something for me." Liam raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. He took the elevator downstairs and walked toward Evan Cooper. When Evan Cooper saw him, his eyes turned bloodshot, as if he wanted to tear someone apart. "Liam Sinclair, you opportunistic bastard. Tell Zoe to come down here." Liam looked down at him from above, a faint trace of contempt tugging at the corner of his lips. He spoke slowly, repeating my message word for word. "Miss Quinn is in a meeting. She said there's nothing to discuss with a failed investment." "Failed investment," Evan muttered, repeating the words as if all strength had been drained from his body. He staggered back 2 steps. That sentence cut deeper than any insult. It wasn't just rejection, it was the complete denial of his worth. In the business world he'd always taken pride in, I had branded him as a failure. It was the most brutal humiliation possible, but his pitiful state didn't stir even the smallest bit of sympathy in me. Business warfare never recognizes tears. Liam and I moved faster and faster. Within just 1 month of Skypeak Technologies being founded, we held our new product launch. I personally went on stage to unveil our brand new AI chip, developed using the Tianqiong 2.0 architecture, the Apex chip. Its performance completely surpassed Story Group's lifeline, the Tianqiong 1.0. It tripled processing speed and reduced power consumption by 50%. Right there at the press conference, we signed cooperation deals with more than a dozen top domestic and international tech companies. These companies had once been Story Group's biggest clients. But now, without hesitation, they abandoned Story and chose us. The market made its choice in the most merciless way. On the day the Apex chip was launched, Story Group's stock price fell below its IPO value. The bank's debt collection calls flooded Story Group's finance department. Partners rushed over to terminate their contracts and demand compensation. Suppliers cut off deliveries and gathered at the company entrance demanding payment. When a building collapses, everyone helps push it over. The once mighty business empire was now crumbling at a speed visible to the naked eye. Evan Cooper tried everything. He went to beg my father, but my father shut him out immediately. The Quinn family's stance was clear. Everything was up to me. He then tried to steal the Apex chip's technical data, but our security system caught him on the spot. He almost ended up in court. He was like a beast trapped in a cage, thrashing wildly, only to end up bloody and broken. And then finally the last straw arrived. Story Group's largest creditor bank announced it would begin liquidating the company's assets. That meant Story Group had officially gone bankrupt. When the news came out, Evan's father, Chairman Cooper, couldn't bear the blow. He suffered a cerebral hemorrhage on the spot and was rushed to the ICU. Evan kept watch outside the emergency room, and overnight his hair turned white. He finally tasted what it meant to lose everything: betrayal, abandonment, and ruin. And what about Tina Sue, the one who claimed she loved him? The day after Story Group declared bankruptcy, Tina vanished. She disappeared without a trace. When Evan returned from the hospital to the apartment they had been living in together, he found the place in complete chaos. Everything of value was gone. Even the remaining balance in his personal bank account had been emptied by Tina. On the table was a letter. The handwriting was delicate, but the contents were a poisoned blade. Evan, forgive me for leaving without saying goodbye. I did love you, that part is true. But I'm sorry. I can't suffer with you. I grew up poor, and I've always been afraid of poverty. I want a life of luxury, of standing at the top of the world. You were able to give me that once, but you can't anymore. I thought you could win against Zoe Quinn, but I was wrong. You couldn't even keep a woman as good as Zoe Quinn. How could you possibly give me the future I want? Forget me, we don't belong to the same world. I wish you well. The woman who once loved you, Tina. The letter slipped from Evan Cooper's trembling hand. He stood there like a statue, motionless in the empty apartment for a long, long time. At last, he understood. Tina's pure love had been nothing more than a carefully calculated investment. She had invested in his status, his money, his future. And the moment he lost everything, she withdrew her investment without hesitation and went searching for her next, more profitable target. And the funny thing was, he had given up on me. Given up on an entire empire for a woman like her. A crushing wave of regret and agony swallowed him whole. He stumbled out of the apartment and wandered aimlessly through the heavy rain. The city's neon lights blurred in his vision. When he looked up, he saw the largest LED billboard in the city center. A news segment was playing. In the video, Liam Sinclair and I stood side by side, jointly presenting Skypeak Technologies' new product. We looked powerful, brilliant, perfectly matched. The headline beneath us stabbed straight through him. A new business empire rises. Quinn and Sinclair create a legend. A legend. Evan stared at the confident, composed smile on my face, the smile that used to belong to him. I was the one who stood with him when he built his tiny startup into an industry giant. I was the one who paved every road for him, who cleared every obstacle. He once had the world's greatest business partner, the best wife he could ever dream of. And he threw it all away with his own hands. For what? For that pathetic pride. for that delusional desire to conquer something he thought was his. A mouthful of blood burst from Evan's lips. His body finally gave out, and he collapsed to his knees in the freezing rain, letting out a howl that sounded less like a man and more like a wounded beast. He was panicked now, truly, completely unhinged. 3 months later, Liam Sinclair and I held our engagement ceremony at the most luxurious 7-star hotel in Capital City. The event was hailed as the engagement of the century. The world's top figures attended: political leaders, business titans, rising stars of the tech world. Under both my leadership and Liam's, Skypeak Technologies had become the global leader of the chip industry. Our market value had surpassed 1 trillion, creating a miracle in the history of business. And between Liam and me, what started as a business partnership had gradually become something deeper. He understood my ambition, admired my abilities, respected every decision I made. We were comrades, confidants, and soulmates. A union of equals is the strongest bond in the world. In the grand banquet hall, I wore a couture gown in starlit blue as I held Liam's arm and received the blessings of everyone present. Liam looked at me with eyes so gentle they nearly melted. "Zoe, you're stunning today," I smiled. "Mr. Sinclair has always had excellent taste." Just as the host announced the ring exchange segment, the doors to the hall were suddenly shoved open with a violent crash. A disheveled man reeking of alcohol stumbled in like a madman. It was Evan Cooper. His suit was wrinkled and dirty, his expression clouded, his face covered in unshaven stubble. He looked like a homeless man dragged in off the street. The entire room fell silent in shock. Security rushed forward to restrain him, but Evan Cooper used every ounce of strength he had to break free. He ran straight toward me and collapsed to his knees with a heavy thud. He knelt before me, looking up with tears streaming down his face. "Zoe, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Can you come back? Can we start over? Tina, that bitch, she was just a moment of stupidity. The one I've always loved is you. Only you." He cried as he reached out, trying to grab the hem of my gown. Liam Sinclair stepped forward and shielded me behind him, his eyes cold as steel. "Throw him out." Security immediately grabbed Evan by the arms. He struggled like a madman, screaming, "Zoe, give me another chance. Story Group is gone. We can build a company even greater than Skypeak. As long as you come back, I'll do anything." His voice echoed through the luxurious hall, sounding both pitiful and ridiculous. The guests around us looked at him like he was insane. From beginning to end, I did not even lift an eyebrow. I didn't bother giving him a second glance. I simply held Liam's arm, a faint, perfectly measured confusion on my face as I asked softly, "Mr. Sinclair, who is this man? Do we know him?" My voice wasn't loud, yet it cut into Evan's chest like the sharpest blade. His struggling stopped abruptly. He stared at me in disbelief, his eyes filled with despair. Forgetting is far crueler than hatred. I couldn't even be bothered to hate him. I turned to security and said calmly, "Please remove this man. He's disrupting the atmosphere of the event." "Yes, Miss Quinn." Evan Cooper was dragged out of the banquet hall like a dead dog. The last thing he saw was me accepting the dazzling diamond ring from Liam Sinclair and sliding it onto my finger as thunderous applause filled the room. Thrown out of the hotel, Evan wandered the streets like a walking corpse. His world had completely collapsed. My one sentence, "Do we know him?" became the final straw that shattered him. He lost, completely and utterly. He lost his company, his status, his wealth, and even the right to be hated by me. He walked aimlessly until he reached the entrance of a bar. On the TV outside, an entertainment news segment was playing. The woman on screen was Tina Sue. She was clinging to a balding billionaire far older than Evan as they vacationed on a foreign beach, laughing seductively. A reporter asked her what she thought about her ex-boyfriend Evan Cooper's bankruptcy. She smiled sweetly at the camera. "Mr. Cooper? Oh, we haven't been in contact for a long time. People need to look forward in life. I'm very happy now." Under blow after blow, the last thread in Evan's mind finally snapped. He went insane. He wandered the streets muttering nonsense. Sometimes he pointed at passers-by and cursed them as traitors. Sometimes he would fall to his knees crying to the air, "Zoe, I was wrong. Don't go. Dad, I'm sorry. The company will go public. It will. It will." He was completely trapped inside his own delusions. No one paid attention to him anymore. He had become a true homeless lunatic. Winter arrived. Snow fell for the first time that year. Liam Sinclair and I were on a ski vacation in Switzerland. We were staying in a wooden cabin at the mountaintop. The fire in the fireplace was burning warmly. I leaned in Liam Sinclair's arms, watching the snow falling endlessly outside the window. The TV was playing international news when a brief local news segment flashed by. The footage showed police putting up a cordon in front of an abandoned villa. The anchor reported in a neutral tone, "Early this morning, police discovered a male corpse in front of a villa in the Chester district. The deceased has been identified as Evan Cooper, former CEO of Story Group. Investigation shows the man had been mentally unstable for days. Preliminary cause of death is determined to be hypothermia." That villa was the one Evan and I had once planned to buy as our marital home. What an irony. Liam picked up the remote to switch the channel, but I pressed his hand lightly. "No need." My voice was calm, unshaken, like I was listening to a story about a stranger entirely unrelated to me. Liam looked at me, a trace of concern in his eyes. I smiled at him. "It's all in the past." Yes, it was all in the past. The man named Evan Cooper, along with that foolish chapter of my life, would be buried by time like the snow outside, leaving no trace behind. I picked up the remote and quietly changed the channel. A light-hearted romantic comedy began playing. I nestled back into Liam's warm embrace and continued enjoying my honeymoon. The snowstorm outside raged on, but my world was already clear skies for miles. The business empire that belonged to me had only just begun, and the legend belonging to Liam and me had only just begun as well. Evan Cooper's point of view: after everything fell apart, I used to believe I stood at the top of the world. I had the career everyone envied, the status, the power, and most importantly, I had Zoe Quinn, the woman who built an empire with me from nothing. She was my greatest partner, my anchor, the steady force behind every victory I ever had. But when a man stands too long in the light, he starts to mistake that light for his own. He forgets who helped him shine. I thought I deserved more. I thought I was unstoppable. I thought Zoe would always stay, no matter what I did. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. My pride, my ego, my hunger for admiration, they made me blind. Someone like Tina Sue knew exactly where my weaknesses were. She fed my vanity, worshipped my ambition, made me feel like a king, even when the throne I sat on was built by Zoe's hands, not mine. I mistook manipulation for affection. I mistook flattery for love. And when everything collapsed, I finally saw the truth. Tina was only ever investing in my power, my money, my future. And once I had nothing left, she cashed out. But in losing her, I didn't lose anything, because the real loss was Zoe. I still remember the moment she stood on that stage and calmly ended our engagement. That was the moment she walked out of my life. But I was too arrogant, too stupid to understand it. I thought she'd forgive me, like before. I thought she'd compromise for the sake of the company, for our shared dream. But Zoe wasn't the girl who followed behind me anymore. She was a force standing on her own. And when I saw her beside Liam Sinclair at the new product launch, radiant, powerful, unstoppable, I realized I didn't just lose in business, I lost in life. She used to smile like that at me. She used to look at me the way she now looks at him. I was the one she believed in, until I gave her every reason not to. The day she said, "Do we know him?" At her engagement ceremony was the day something inside me died. Those 4 words cut deeper than any humiliation I had ever faced. She didn't hate me. No, hatred would have meant I still mattered. But to her, I was nothing, not even a memory worth keeping. And now, standing alone in the ruins of my life, I finally understand. The real tragedy wasn't losing my company or my status. The real tragedy was losing the only woman who ever loved me for who I was, not for what I had. Zoe Quinn was my future, and I destroyed it with my own hands. If time could turn back, I would choose her over everything. Over my pride, over my ambition, over the entire damn world. But life doesn't rewind, and regret doesn't bring people back. So now I live with the truth. I didn't just lose Zoe, I lost the man I could have been, if I had never let her go.